Imagine that you are all riding along England's dusty road in your car. Every bump you hit is a reminder that you're moments away from reaching your destination. The sun is shining on this mid-April morning. The car stops. You have arrived. As you peek your head out of the car's open door, you get your first glance at it. You've never seen something so large and beautiful. Suddenly it sinks in. This ship will be your new home until you arrive on the dock in America, the land of dreams. It's 1912, and you're about to board the largest ship in the world. This ship has been rumored to change lives, and you are ready to start your new adventure and begin a new chapter in your life. The ship's whistle blows. It's now or never. Time to board. As you step off the platform onto the ship, you take one last look at the world and life you're leaving behind. With one final deep breath in, you turn away and take your final step off the platform and onto the RMS Titanic. Running to the top deck to wave goodbye to your loved ones you're leaving behind, the ship starts to move. No turning back now. Your adventure has started. You're going to America. Hi, my name is Melissa Volpe, and the topic of my speech today is the Titanic. There are many different speculations about the famous sinking of the Titanic and how it occurred, and what really caused the unsinkable ship to go down and be swallowed by the ocean. Today, I am going to inform you about Titanic, why the ship was so important, the events that led up to the sinking and how it sank, and the events that occurred after the ship went down. Let's start by discussing what the Titanic was. According to Leo Marriott's book Titanic, there are many different things that made Titanic what it was. Building of the Titanic started on May 31st, 1911. It was to be the largest and most luxurious ship of its time. According to Charles Pellegrino's book Her Name Titanic, even third class was extravagant for its time. Compared to second class and previous ships, third class passengers had never been treated so great. The boat was built to hold a maximum of 3,547 passengers. At the time of the voyage, the ship only departed with 2,223. Titanic had a length of 882 feet and 9 inches and was 175 feet from the height of the keel to the top of the funnel. Now that you know a little bit more about the Titanic and what it was, we need to discuss and understand why the ship in particular is so important. According to Charles Pellegrino's book, Her Name Titanic, it was considered unsinkable by passengers and crew and funders and was referred to as the unsinkable ship. According to James Cameron's illustrated screenplay and movie, Titanic, it was also thought to be unsinkable because it was built to be able to withstand, in a hit, 4 different compartments filling with water, and it would still stay afloat. Because of Titanic's title as unsinkable, the ship only held just enough lifeboats to carry less than half of the passengers aboard the ship in case of emergency. The amount of lifeboats were still more than maritime law required at that time. Titanic is awarded points for changing maritime law in reference to the number of lifeboats required on the ship. There are also no lifeboat drills for passengers in case of an emergency. Titanic was to make history, according to James Cameron's movie and screenplay Titanic, because of the owners of the ship were so adamant on making Titanic not only the largest and most luxurious ship in the world, but also the fastest to make the voyage to America. The captain of the ship was ordered to put the engines at full speed. Another important fact, according to Leo Marriott's book, Titanic, and Charles Pellegrino's book, Her Name Titanic, was that since Titanic was such a new ship, they ordered binoculars, but they never came. Titanic was also using Morse code to communicate with other ships, which wasn't that common at its time, and not every ship had it. Titanic was one of the first ships to use the SOS signal for distress instead of COD, which was the distress code at the time. Now that we understand why Titanic was so important in its time, let's discuss the events that led up to the sinking. Since binoculars were ordered and never arrived, it was hard to see in the pitch black dead of night. This was also a big deal because the crew couldn't look out for other ships and icebergs as well. Not only were there no binoculars, but Titanic's Morse code system had been down all day, so they didn't receive the warnings from other ships about icebergs. By the time the iceberg was sighted, it was too late. Murdoch, the captain, ultimately made what was proven to be the worst decision that he could have made when facing the icy beast. Murdoch made the decision to have the engines come to a complete stop and thrown in reverse. Besides that, he turned the wheel all the way astern as possible. These decisions ultimately led to the demise of the RMS Titanic. Because of the way Titanic hit the iceberg that was submerged underwater, it punctured 5 of the compartments. And remember, the ship could only allow 4 of the compartments to hold water and stay afloat. So the ship could not handle the extra weight and ultimately sank. If Murdoch would have hit the iceberg head first, only a few compartments, 2 at most, would have fled. If he would have sped up the engines instead of ordering them to come to the complete stop, he could have turned the ship and still gone as astern as possible, but he would hit it in a way that would have avoided sinking. This was because the rudder was too small and Titanic's turn radius was too wide and slow, that the ship was destined to fail. First, after passengers finally accepted that the ship was going down, the crew was told to get them into lifeboats as fast as possible. First and second class was to go first, but only the women and children. Third class was locked downstairs and told to wait for instructions, but instructions never came. Third class suffered the most loss of lives. Most of the lifeboats left with fewer people than they could hold. Some left with only 12 when they were meant to hold 50 or more. This was also a factor in why a lot of people went down with the ship. Now that we know a little bit of the events that led up to the Titanic, let's discuss how the events after the sinking unfolded. Most passengers went down with the ship. Several of the survivors died months after the disaster due to exposure that night. Survivors that did survive were taken to the Carpathia about 50 miles away to be accounted for and to reconnect with loved ones. It took 4 hours for the Carpathia to reach the Titanic. I hope you now understand a little bit more about the Titanic, why the ship was so important, the events that led up to the sinking and how it sank, and the events that occurred after the ship went down. Imagine, just like you did at the beginning of my speech, that you were aboard the RMS Titanic. But this time, imagine that you are one of the survivors, one of the few that got away. After this event, you now fully understand the value of life and how it is so easily lost. Now what are you going to do with yours?